Hello, my name is Jordan and I am a graduate student at the University of North Carolina in Charlotte. I am seeking a master's degree in social work, an MSW. Part of my coursework is to question existing policies in state and national levels and either change them or do away with them. This assignment, this video, has to do with duty to warn laws in mental health. In the United States today, all 50 of them, beautiful children like these featured in People magazine are protected. If you are working with a client in mental health and you hear that they are going to harm any of these beautiful children, you have a duty to warn. And if you don't, you will be prosecuted by the state and you can lose your license, your professional license as well. The same applies for elders, older people who are possibly being abused, but the same protection is not afforded to adults. So if you hear while you're working with someone as a counselor that they're going to harm another adult, different states have different takes on that issue, and that seems like a glaring policy gap that I want to address in this video, which will unfortunately be kind of long, but I'll do my best to make it shorter. According to the EPAS 2.1.10b, which is the Education Policy Accreditation Standards of the Council on Social Work, Education, I must develop professional identity through understanding how to conduct program and practice evaluations. So here we go. Choosing an issue of importance and researching the relevant policy. Clearly state the issue of focus. This policy advocacy video is about making duty to warn mandated in all 50 states. Now, a little background. According to Stanford University's Robert Crown Law Library, a practitioner's legal mandate to warn possible targets of violence, aka duty to warn. In 1976, the California Supreme Court handed down a decision that continued to define the limits of confidentiality between counselors and clients. The case in question is Tarasoff versus Regents of the University of California, and it imposed on clinicians the duty to break confidentiality and to warn and protect third parties when a client makes threat of imminent harm against another person. Now, it did that in California in 1976, but different states over the next 25 years since then have basically taken different stands on the issue. So let's look more at these details. Next, I need to identify the specific policy initiative and the level of this policy. This is a state issue. Now, according to the American Psychological Association, whereas the reporting of child abuse is mandated by law in all 50 states, the so-called duty to warn is more complex because the decision usually based on the professional judgment of the therapist rather than on any clear legal statute. That's a gray area that just doesn't make sense. The issue is the protection of greater society and the clients we serve from unnecessary danger. The state-to-state ambiguity surrounding this policy is what I wish to remedy through advocating professionals in North Carolina and other states to unite in passing laws to mandate duty to warn in all 50 states. Now, after California's 76 decision, the stance on duty to warn and protect third parties has been relegated or delegated to the states. According to the American Psychological Association, disclosure laws, which vary from state to state, generally come in two forms. They happen in two ways. Statutory laws are laws that are legislated by state general assemblies and signed by the governor, whereas case law are legal precedents that are adjudicated by appellate courts and signed by judges. Either way, amending existing laws or as a result of legal cases that provide precedents. So if this policy on duty to warn is to change, it would change in one of those two ways. Either state legislatures would take action and the governor would sign away on it, or cases would be brought to their attention and legal precedents would be set and therefore changing their stance on the issue of duty to warn. Now, there is one level of protection provided by licensing boards for mental health professionals, but I don't think it's enough. Still, let's look at it. National professional practice boards mandate ethical practice standards, codes of ethics, yet cannot mandate legal action to be taken against clinical practitioners beyond licensure renewal. So, if you hold a professional license, such as a LCSW, or you're a licensed clinical social worker, or you're an LPC, a licensed professional counselor, and you do not warn in a case of a client saying they're going to harm another adult, and you live in a state that has that mandated, then you can be sued by the state and you can lose your license. If you live in a state like North Carolina, where we have no stance on duty to warn for adults, you can lose your license, and that's it. You won't be sued. There's no jail possibility. So that extra level of protection is not there for you if your state doesn't take a stance on duty to warn. Okay, moving on. Two other, just to say more about the NASW, National Association of Social Workers Code of Ethics 1.07, surrounding privacy and confidentiality. The general expectation is that social workers will keep information confidential, which does not apply when disclosure is necessary to prevent serious and foreseeable imminent harm to a client. And the American Counseling Association Code of Ethics basically says the same thing. The general requirement that counselors keep information confidential does not apply when disclosure is required to protect clients or identified others from serious or foreseeable harm. So, my task is to present different positions taken on the issue and give a little bit more information about this. I researched in North Carolina, the Licensed Professional Counseling Association has a lot of information about confidentiality. And according to the Counselor's Voice that is published every year, this issue was Volume 3, Issue 2. Most states have laws that either require or permit mental health professionals to disclose information about patients who may become violent. Those laws are receiving increased attention following mass shootings around the country. States have different positions on this issue. Now, two different sides. Mandatory reporting laws, some say, may discourage people from seeking professional help or fully disclose their intentions. So if there are more mandated disclosure laws, mandated to report, duty to report laws, then less people may seek help with their mental disorders. Another stance on the issue is that providers may be reluctant to treat potentially violent patients because they fear liability for failure to properly fulfill the duty to warn. So another stance is that professional practitioners, clinicians, social workers, or counselors may fear dealing with potentially violent clients who need help, mental health therapy, because you fear losing your license and being prosecuted because you did not warn properly. So there's reasonable stances on both sides, but nonetheless, not having a layer of protection there for a very large population of people that you treat, not children, not elders, but adults, just seems irresponsible. Now, to look at the numbers, 4 states have no duty to warn/protect legislation, including North Carolina, where I live and will practice in the future, Maine, North Dakota, and Nevada, while 16 states have permissive permissive duty to warn laws, quote, may disclose, and 30 states have mandatory duty to warn statutes. You shall disclose. So 46 states have a stronger stance on duty to warn than North Carolina and the 3 others listed. Seems odd. Seems odd and seems like a glaring policy gap. Now, the safety of clients themselves and society at large are at stake in regard to this issue. Now, a bit of background on the case that caused all of this, because cases, again, that's one of the ways that this legislation will be changed at the state level, is through case precedents and then it filtering through to different states. 1968, a student named, first name Padar, from the University of California, Berkeley, stalked a fellow student, last name Tarasov. She rebuffed his romantic overtures. Padar sought counseling at the University Health Services, and basically at counseling he told the therapist that he was going to kill her. The therapist referred him or reported him to campus police. He was held and questioned. He denied wanting to do anything to Miss Tarasov. They let him go. He killed her, stabbed her 17 times, shot her with a pellet gun. It's a gruesome murder, and the case went, well, it was very controversial. He was subsequently convicted of second-degree murder, but later the decision was reversed when he moved back to his home country of India. The Tarasov family, her parents, brought suit against the campus police and University Health Services, arguing that clinicians failed to warn their daughter of the threat. And in California, after that point, they had a stance on duty to warn. And the Justice Matthew O. Tabriner of the California Supreme Court gave the majority opinion and stated, the public policy favoring protection of the confidential character of patient psychotherapist communications must yield to the extent to which disclosure is essential to avert danger to others. And very succinctly, he said, the protective privilege ends where the public peril begins. And having duty to protect children and elders, but not adults, puts the public to peril and seems like a glaring deficit. Now, to conclude, the issue of duty to warn is one that cannot be ignored, while thousands of vulnerable citizens are put at risk. It's so simple. I believe North Carolina, as well as Nevada, Maine, and North Dakota, must not continue to ignore this issue, along with the 16 other states who have a permissive stance on the issue. My strategy is to use this video as an effort to increase awareness of this issue within the counseling community, including clinical counseling professionals such as LCSWs, LPCs, psychologists, psychiatrists, as well as addiction counselors. My rationale for using this strategy is that it will provide a simple and concise message that can be disseminated quickly through social media and the website YouTube. This advocacy effort will hopefully galvanize the resolve of clinical professionals to bring this issue to the attention of their professional licensing boards, as well as to the attention of state representatives. The lasting impact of this effort may create enough discussion that state legislatures mandate duty to warn and protect legislation across the U.S. At the least, this issue will increase awareness of the ethical and legal responsibilities that clinical professionals must take into account. Counseling and social work are helping professions that come with a great responsibility to our clients and to our communities. And not having duty to warn laws to protect adults, as we have no doubt in protecting children or our elders, seems glaring, obvious, and we need to make that change. So thank you for listening to my graduate school ponderings on changing policy surrounding duty to warn. It was very informative to me and very much brought the issue to my mind. In the future, I will be much more aware when I'm working with clients about these issues and about my responsibility not only to the clients I serve, but to the greater community in which they live and I live. Thank you for your time.